Hey guys, I'm sure you should have heard about this terminology called as Agile, Scrum, and similar buzzwords that's been floating around in the IT industry for a long time. And even like if you're someone who's new to the IT industry, or you have just stepped into the IT industry, you should have heard this often from your team, like daily Scrum meeting, sprint planning meetings, sprint review meetings, sprint retrospective meetings, and so on. Or even if you would have searched online, there'll be like a ton of these kind of abstract diagrams explaining what Scrum is about. However, if you had been intimidated by all these things, well, this video is for you to explain what Scrum is all about. So, for absolute beginners, let me start with a story. Let's say I own a retail store in New York. I sell goods ranging from groceries, home appliances, toys, gadgets, clothing, etc. Right? So my business is doing really well, and people are always coming in and going out, and my store is busy all the time. Now, I got an idea. Since my store is very popular amongst the customers, I thought, okay, why don't I just like open a website and let the customers order goods online so I can expand my business and earn more money. So I had established an IT department, and I onboarded a bunch of IT people and engineers who can design, build, test, and deploy the website, and the website can be made available to the public. Anyways, so with that being said, I had a really big discussion with the team, and so we finalized on like how we are going to do and all those things. And eventually, the main idea of this is to earn some money, right? So it was in January. I told my project manager all my requirements, and I told that I need the website in par with our contemporaries, right? So there have been pages and pages of documentation thereafter returned to its utmost perfection as how exactly I need my website to be and the features to be. I was like pretty satisfied with it, right? So then the requirement was given to the developers to develop. They were like pretty good as well. Took a couple of months work developing the software, then took a couple of months for testing the software. So all I was doing was, okay, I was just happily watching these operations because I know that my IT department was really good, really able, and was really working hard. So I was concentrating back on my store's operation, right? So and then finally the day had come to launch our website, and boom, we have launched our website successfully after a year of hard works or several months of hard works. It was pretty good, right? I mean, I was pretty excited since I have a pretty good reputation amongst my customers, and I was sure that the people would love ordering it online. Unfortunately, my online sales did not go as I was expecting. So, as the days went by, the reviews were not pretty good. The customers were complaining about their experiences with the website, and also it was not as good as our competitors. So that's when I've decided, okay, let me go ahead and hire an expert. So I approached an industry expert, and when I got to know where I went wrong, and then the root cause was found. So now let's look through the eyes of the industry expert. If you look closely into the story, there is a process involved for creating a software. For example, gathering requirements and documentation is a phase, right? Probably it might have taken like 3 to 4 months. And then after that, it will be handed over to the development team. And again, the development team will take like 3 to 4 months to develop the software and then like hand it over to the testing team so that they can get the developed software and test it. And finally, you deploy the software. You make the software available to the public. You, in this case, like you build a website and make it available to the public, right? So by the time the website was launched, our competitor's website had a lot more feature and it was more attractive. As a result, we have pretty good customer reviews. However, on our website, it's quite the opposite. So let's get back to our process. If you look at this timeline, nowhere the end users or the customers are going to know how the website is going to look like. So all they know was, okay, there has been some discussions that happened during the start of the project with like a bunch of documentation that has been handed over to the development team, and then the development team like took some time to in developing the software and then handed over to the testing. So it was like a cascading flow that had been happening. However, the one thing was how their competitors were having more advanced features. So in spite of our company having like so much of talented developers and talented engineers, like how come the competitors were able to uh, deliver a software that is liked by the customers and was getting like really good reviews? So because in our company or in our website, the type of software methodology that they were using is called as waterfall methodology, where everything is traditional and siloed. So if you look at these phases, it's like everything is like phase by phase. It's like during the gathering of requirements, there won't be anyone involved. There won't be like a customer would be involving like, hey, you know what, maybe the customer might be involved during the start of the season. So probably like once you get to the development, and then like once the requirement is fixed or the design is fixed, that's it. You move on to the development, and you just like whatever that your design is, you just need to develop that. So that similarly that continues with the testing as well, right? So now let's look what a waterfall method is. So if you look at waterfall method, it is one of the oldest software development method that has been there for a very long time, more than 30 years. So if you look at it, the diagram explains itself. Like you cannot, once you fix something, you cannot go back and change. But let me give you an example. Let's say you have a design that has been given to the developers to work on, but then in the middle of the year, or probably once you have started developing and you're like 50% into the development, suddenly the customer or the customer preferences change, or is there something that is new that has been introduced in the market, or there is something that your competitors are using, but your design is fixed, so you cannot go back and change. So that is the reason waterfall method is less, it's kind of more siloed, and once it is fixed, that's it. So it is one of the major drawbacks that our company was also adopting, and that was the result. All right, so what is the solution for this? And that's when you have agile methodology. Okay, so Agile is a methodology that's been popularly used in the software development industry for like quite some time. It has like multiple frameworks like a Kanban, Scrum, extreme programming, on all sorts of things. So in this video, we are mainly going to concentrate on the Scrum framework, right? So what is Scrum? Scrum is today's one of the most agile software development framework that is being used by most of the organization in the IT space. So if you take the earlier example, I have explained the whole process, how it is delivered and like what are the phases and all sorts. However, if you take this old process takes timeline. It has like from start to end. You cannot change anything in between, and just you need to give the whole chunk of the software to the customer or the public or your client. However, in Scrum, that is not the case. You can change the requirements in between, and you get to collaborate with people, you get to collaborate with the customer, and also folks from different departments gets to collaborate with everyone, so that you deliver a quality product that the customer actually wants, right? So let me take the same example again. In January, I have given my requirements to the software development team. So in Scrum, there won't be any project manager. He will be called as a product owner, right? So product owner is a term, or it's a role. It's kind of one of the important role in Scrum. So probably I will cover that in a different video. So getting back to it. So the person who will take the requirements is called a product owner. So the product owner should be knowing about his product. In our case, it's the e-commerce website. So he should know how the e-commerce market works and what the customer needs are. He is responsible for maximizing the value of the product. He will not write like a 300-page documentation. Rather, he analyzes the requirements and figure out what the customer exactly wants when using a website. Okay, I said like instead of drafting a 300, 400 page documentation, he puts himself in the shoes of a customer and comes up with a question. What are the most essential features that a customer would be needing? So in our case, when a customer visits our website, he might be needing a login feature, and probably he should be having an ability to add the products to the cart, and probably he might be needing a payment gateway. So these are essential features when it comes to an e-commerce website, right? So now you may wonder how these requirements are accounted. Well, we're not going to write like a 300-page documentation for this. Rather, the requirements will be arranged or organized into features and user story. So if you look at features, features are pretty much self-explanatory, as I have mentioned, like in the login page, the checkout page, and all sorts of things. But what's a user story? Again, a user story, for that, I would like create a separate video to explain the concept, like what a user story is. For now, think of an user story is like an essential work that needs to be done to deliver a feature. Well, I'll explain it again. It's basically an essential work that needs to be done to deliver a feature, or probably you can think of it like a unit of work that needs to be done to deliver a feature, right? So these bunch of user stories to deliver a feature is called as a product backlog, right? So basically, a product backlog is nothing but a list of items to be completed so that you can deliver a functionality or functionalities to the customer. Then, after this, he takes the product prioritized backlog and discusses with the software developers and testers together. So in Scrum, there is no differentiation between the developing department and the testing department, and it's collectively called as the Scrum team. So together, software developers, testers, the product owner will figure out how to convert this product backlog items into a working technical piece. And this will also be a collaborative discussion. So if you look at it, the siloed approach is broken. So after discussing with the team, the product owner will go ahead and prioritize the backlog and decides which are the user stories or which are the set of work that needs to be developed first so that they can get it out to the customer at the earliest. So now we need to decide a timeline as to when we should get it done. Is there a start date or is there an end date? So when should we be able to see the finished working product, right? So now we need to decide the timeline at which this product will be delivered. So for this, we use the term called as sprint. So let's take the literal example of a running sprint. It is very quick and gets completed in a short amount of time. Basically, the objective of the runner is to complete the sprint with maximum effort so that he can reach the finish line in minimum time. It is almost similar when we apply that to the software development. Simple words, a sprint is a period of time that a team has to deliver their work. It's also called as a time box. You have a time box, set of time box within which you need to complete your work. Let's take an example. Let's say this team is given 15 days to complete the set of work that they have committed, the prioritized work that the product owner had told the team, right? So that they have committed to deliver, right? So when we apply sprint to the software delivery, a sprint is a cycle which has a definite start date and a stop date. So you can just take this example. Let's say we have 2-week sprint period, which is 15 days, right? In this case, the sprint starts in January 1, ends in January 15. Then from January 16, a new sprint cycle will start. Again, its end date will be 2 weeks from that point. So generally, if you take a sprint might last from 1 week to even 4 weeks in some companies. Again, I mean, it depends on the companies and the business they are into. So as a common industry practice, or at least the companies that I've worked in the past, so we generally have like a 2-week sprint, right? So this is a quick snapshot of how a timeline would look like. So you have the in sprint one, you have a set of user stories that you have committed, and that will be delivered in sprint one. So let's say the login feature has been committed in sprint one, and uh, the developers would work and deliver that particular functionality. And then sprint two starts. You have another set of story, another set of functionality. And then the sprint three, another set of stories, another set of functionality. Now let's look at what happens during a sprint. So during a sprint, all technical analysis, the development, the testing, and the deployment will happen during the 2-week time period. So it's like you take a chunk of requirements, you develop it, you test it, and you deploy it, right? So at a bird's eye view level, this is how a sprint would look like. So the team does the analysis, development, and testing in the same sprint during that time period, whatever the company has agreed, and would build the product piece by piece or will develop incrementally. So in the next slide, we are going to see the two approaches in which a product could be developed in software. So there are two approaches to develop a software. One is incremental, the other one is iterative. So now let's take incremental approach. So in this case, you build a product piece by piece over a period of time. So if you equate the painting of this picture to software development, let's say a software product has 10 service modules. Then you build one module in the first sprint and the next modules in the subsequent sprints, right? Now let's look at iterative approach of the software product delivery. It's more of you evolve the product over the period of time. So in this example, you draw the outline of the whole picture first and then make some changes to it, then paint the first layer to it, then enhance it with the second layer, and then complete it with the final layer. So this could be imagined when you build a standard website for a company with a basic design, then you add graphics to the existing design, and then you have an interactive elements on top of it. You evolve, so that's the whole idea of it, right? So to get a perspective who and all will be engaged during this phase, let's see. You have product owner, tech leads, developers, testers, customers, business owners, client representative. It depends on the company or it depends on the business. And what happens? We'll be having some planning meetings. We can see that in later videos. And we have daily meetings. And we have business and technical analysis. It also includes like discussions pertaining to design and architecture. And you have development that happening on the side, and testing and deployments, review of the deliverable, and as well as the feedback from the customer. So all these things happens during the sprint, and the trend continues for all the sprint. All right. So before we wrap up, there is one more thing that makes Scrum a popular framework, which is the visual representation of the work. What it means is that whatever the work the team is doing, it needs to be displayed in a visual manner. Let's say there are like 5 developers that are working in a sprint, and each developer has been assigned like one task or one user story. So in this case, all the user stories must be represented visually at a common place where all the 5 developers can see what others are working on and the progress that they are making on their development work. So this eventually breaks the siloed barrier where even the product owner knows exactly which part of work is under development and which part of work is in testing phase, and the tester gets to know when he will get the developed software for testing. So as you sense, this encourages a transparency and collaboration, right? So here's the example of a visual board, but in Agile, like we call it a Scrum board or Kanban board, and again, it depends on the business and the team, however they call it. So it is as simple. So the task is written on a post-it note or a card, and then you stick it into the appropriate status column. So these are the tickets which are in backlog, which means these tickets have not been worked on yet. And these are the tickets which are in progress, pretty much self-explanatory. And these are the tickets that are in testing. And this ticket is done. All right, now we have reached to the end of the video. So to summarize, in our story of the retail store, the traditional waterfall method that they've used did not work. So it was because they had like siloed approach where there was like no much collaboration and there was like no much feedback mechanism between the customers and the business owners. And also like once they finalized a technical design or anything during the phase of the project, it was really difficult to go back and change because everything was like tightly sequenced. So thus resulting in a product that didn't satisfy the market needs or the customers. So Scrum, on the other hand, is a methodology that is used in delivering a product in a most quick and collaborative manner. So this encourages transparency, feedback, and also the incremental and an iterative approach encourages to change the requirements in the middle. And also there's improved communication. So the gap between the development team and the customer is significantly reduced. So with this, the results would possibly be a better product that is in par with the market demand and the customer satisfaction. And that concludes our video. So whatever the stories and the examples that I have covered in this video is just to simplify the concepts and get the message across to you. So in the forthcoming videos, we will dwell deeper into it and expand more on Scrum to see like how it's formally used in the industry. So until then, stay tuned. And if you're someone who'd like to become a Scrum Master, like feel free to email me with your questions and comments. I'd be happy to answer it for you. Thank you.